You have been walking through unseen trials, and though you may not have realized it, something greater has been measuring the weight of your heart. The unseen has been quietly observing how you carry yourself when the crowd is gone, how you stand when comfort is absent, how you move when no applause follows. The most powerful forces do not reveal themselves in contracts or banknotes, but in hidden councils where endurance, kindness, and integrity are counted as currency. While doubts whispered that you were overlooked, you were actually under review. Every moment you chose patience over shortcuts, every act of generosity when you could have been selfish, every choice to keep building when quitting seemed easier, these became invisible signatures of your true value. None of it slipped through unnoticed. Your life has been like a manuscript under constant revision, where unseen scribes noted how you handled storms, how you spoke when bitterness would have been justified, and how you guarded your vision when delay tried to blind you. These were not random struggles, they were chapters written to prepare you for a release far beyond your imagination. And now, the evaluation is complete. You are being confirmed for a season that no calculation of human logic could predict. The very people who assumed your path was limited will soon watch as you are lifted into spaces they thought you could never reach. What looked like stagnation was actually the strengthening of your foundation. Understand this, the invisible tests you passed have built an invisible record, and that record is now unlocking doors no resume could open. Where others trusted image, you cultivated depth. Where others chased applause, you cultivated truth. That is why the gates are about to shift in your favor. This isn't merely a promotion, it is a revelation. It is proof that true success is not manufactured by strategies alone, but is entrusted to those who have proven unshakable when no spotlight was on them. You have become the type of person who can be trusted with greater weight because you refuse to crumble under smaller ones. The rising you are about to experience is not accidental. It is the outcome of a long, silent preparation. You endured when quitting was an option, you chose honor when compromise promised speed, and you carried yourself with dignity when invisibility seemed unfair. And because of this, the hidden verdict has been rendered: you are ready. You have been undergoing a reconstruction far deeper than appearances suggest, and though the changes seemed invisible, they were laying a foundation for something greater than your present environment could sustain. Capacity has been stretched in silence, not because you were weak, but because a stronger container was required for what is about to be entrusted to you. The quiet moments you couldn't explain were not delays, they were rehearsals for a rhythm your future will demand. The recent stillness wasn't emptiness but recalibration. It was as if the inner wires of your being were rewoven, strengthening circuits of patience, endurance, and resilience. The strange weight you've carried wasn't heaviness for its own sake, but a training ground teaching your spirit to hold intensity without breaking. While you questioned the distance of others, it was really the removal of interference so the signal within you could grow clearer. What looked like subtraction was actually refinement. The fading of shallow alliances, the doors that closed without warning, and the sudden quiet around your path were not signs of loss but deliberate clearing. Every supposed setback was an act of precision, stripping away distractions so that only what aligns with your next dimension remains. This process wasn't rejection, it was preparation for expansion. The separation you endured was never about being discarded. It was the clearing of a stage before the lights return, making sure that when the curtain rises again, only those who are meant to share in your next season are present. The solitude you felt has been carving space, ensuring that when the right people and opportunities arrive, there is room for them to take root without competing with what once drained you. But what awaits is not merely comfort or increase, it is a shift that will test the strength of what you've become. Abundance doesn't arrive quietly, it arrives with ripples that disturb hidden structures. The moment provision multiplies, resistance multiplies with it, because influence born from resilience cannot be ignored by the systems that rely on silence and stagnation. Elevation carries conflict because new levels of resource awaken attention from forces that were silent while you were struggling. Prosperity is not only an advancement but also a confrontation, because your breakthrough is evidence that barriers can be dismantled. The rise from scarcity to stability becomes a signal flare, exposing the illusion that impossibility is permanent. When your life moves from endurance to overflow, it does more than transform your personal story, it disrupts narratives that told countless others they were powerless. That transition makes you a carrier of hope, and hope in action is a weapon. Your increase is not just for you, it's a strike against despair, a living contradiction to every voice that claimed change could never be done. The very resistance surrounding your increase is the hidden engine driving it forward. What appears to be an effort to restrict you is actually producing momentum that ordinary effort could never create. The attempts to block your progress are stirring unseen intervention, quickening the release of what belongs to you. The more the struggle intensifies, the more rapid your rise becomes, because the weight against you has transformed into the very force that launches you higher. Every challenge aimed at diminishing your resources is quietly rewriting the outcome in your favor. What was intended to exhaust you is being redirected into strength. Each clash over your destiny is not draining your future but accelerating it, forging opportunities that would not have appeared in calm waters. The greater the resistance, the greater the propulsion, because your increase carries significance beyond personal comfort. Your expansion is not about numbers or possessions, it is about the ripple it causes in structures built to convince generations that growth is impossible. The measure of your prosperity cannot be reduced to private success, it is a disruption to entire systems. Your breakthrough exposes that confinement is not permanent and limitation is not final. That is why the struggle against your rise has been so relentless. Your progress represents proof of possibilities that others were taught to doubt. Yet with expansion comes a new battlefield. Not every open hand is extended to bless. The moment resources begin to gather, imitations arrive, cloaked in language that appeals to your aspirations. Proposals may sound flawless, and agreements may appear polished, but not all alliances are meant to carry you forward. What glitters in the natural often hides entanglements in the unseen. Every contract is more than a signature, it is a binding of purpose. Hidden among the genuine are agreements designed to reshape your vision under someone else's control. Some opportunities will be presented with precision, echoing your goals so perfectly that they seem undeniable. Yet behind the charm lies the intent to dilute, delay, or divert what was entrusted to you. The challenge is not only to receive wisely but to discern deeply. The true test is recognizing that some offers are not aligned with destiny but manufactured to look like shortcuts. The allure of speed or guaranteed success can mask the subtle chains of compromise. Not every door that swings wide is meant to be walked through. Real increase requires guardianship over both your resources and your vision. The same resilience that carried you through lack must now protect you in plenty. True partnerships will strengthen, not suffocate. They will align without manipulation and support without hidden demands. Your path requires vigilance, because what you carry is too significant to be handed over to hands that only appear trustworthy. The increase that is forming around you is not random, nor is it shallow. It carries intention, depth, and an assignment that extends far beyond self-indulgence. What is being placed in your hands isn't merely excess, it's a magnifier that reveals what has always been embedded within your core. The world may expect wealth to turn hearts selfish, but in your case it will awaken capacities that shift environments, disrupt cycles, and ignite possibilities long buried in silence. This transformation isn't about stacking riches for display. It is about aligning resources with destiny, shaping them into instruments that rewrite history for your bloodline and beyond. Every resource will be charged with purpose, carrying the weight to restore where there has been loss, to mend where there has been division, and to inject hope where despair once held dominion. What you gain is not meant to sit still, it is designed to be mobilized like a current spreading life wherever it touches. Yet the shift is not only about possession, it is about perspective. Wealth is no longer a finish line you chase, but a foundation upon which new assignments can be built. What is coming is not comfort that locks you in stagnation, but empowerment that launches movements. You are being trained to see abundance not as a resting place, but as a resource base for visions that transcend your lifespan. Every decision you make now carries weight because you're not simply handling money, you're handling influence, responsibility, and legacy. The mindset being shaped in you is one that multiplies solutions, not just balances accounts. You are being equipped with the ability to carry authority without arrogance, to lead without losing humility, to expand without losing your compass. This is why the internal rewiring has been as important as the external gain. Without the inner structure, the outer structure would collapse. As your position shifts, so will the dynamics around you. The moment your circumstances elevate, the orbits of people connected to you will shift in response. Those who once dismissed you will suddenly return, cloaked in false familiarity. Others who ignored your struggle will reappear with selective memory, claiming alignment they never offered. Wealth does not only change your life, it reveals the true posture of those around you. Not everyone will celebrate. To some, your rise will feel like disruption, not blessing. They will wrestle with unspoken jealousy, not because you wronged them, but because your visible elevation forces them to confront the choices they never made. To see you lifted is, for them, to admit they surrendered where you persisted. The discomfort is not born from your success, but from the reflection it casts on their own hesitation. Accusations may surface, attempts to reduce your journey to chance or to label it with suspicion. Yet none of that can undo the truth. Your increase is anchored in quiet perseverance, unseen discipline, and sacrifices that no one applauded. What now radiates outward is the result of years of silent labor. Your glow doesn't expose their shortcomings intentionally, it simply shines with the evidence of what endurance produces when it refuses to die. The climb into greater levels of provision often brings with it a peculiar silence, not because you have shifted into arrogance, but because the space around you has been rearranged. Prosperity draws out hidden motives, and those who once seemed close reveal their true intentions when access is no longer free. The quietness that surrounds you is not punishment for rising, but a safeguard against those who would only approach to drain what you've been entrusted with. The absence of familiar faces is not abandonment but refinement, ensuring that only those aligned with your worth remain near. The vacancies left behind are not voids to be mourned but clearings that prepare room for what is to come. In the place of superficial ties will arrive genuine companions who value your essence before they ever know your assets. They will measure you by character, not currency, and they will stand with you because of conviction, not convenience. These connections will recognize your vision when it is still raw, still unshaped, still unseen, and they will celebrate you before the evidence becomes undeniable. But there comes a moment when tangible increase breaks into undeniable territory, a marker that signals your passage beyond thresholds others thought permanent. The first significant milestone is not simply a trophy of success, it is a declaration that the old ceiling has been shattered. It is a public recognition in unseen realms that the restraints once placed on you no longer hold authority. That moment doesn't end the battle, it escalates it. From there, a deeper revelation unfolds. Your calling is not merely to receive but to establish. You are not just rising for yourself, you are becoming a model of possibility for every life connected to yours. What you are building now rewrites stories that had long been resigned to scarcity. Generations ahead will live within the shelter of systems you designed, and entire communities will flourish because you refuse to let limitation define you. Yet with visibility comes the return of shadows from the past. Old names, familiar faces, and forgotten voices will resurface, carrying both charm and contradiction. Some will act as if history never happened, while others will wrap their regret in smiles that mask unspoken envy. Few will admit the ridicule they once spoke, the indifference they once showed, or the disbelief they carried in secret. Instead, they will attempt to reattach themselves to what they once dismissed. In that moment, the temptation will be to answer pettiness with power, to repay dismissal with exclusion. But the mark of true authority is not vengeance, it is release. To withhold retaliation is to prove that what once wounded you no longer governs you. The higher calling demands that you let go, not for their sake, but for your own freedom. Forgiveness becomes the crown that seals your rise. It breaks the last chain that ties you to their opinion and their neglect. It is the proof that you have matured beyond needing their validation or explanation. In forgiving, you show that the place you stand in now cannot be shaken by memories of those who never understood your becoming. That is the sign of true elevation, not just wealth in your hands, but wholeness in your heart. The scale of what is unfolding for you cannot be measured by ordinary standards. If the full scope were revealed at once, it would overwhelm the framework of your current imagination. What is being prepared is not simply provision, but a release of resources that will fuel transformation on levels beyond policy, beyond culture, beyond tradition. This is why the shaping process felt relentless, why the delays stretched longer than expected, why the testing pushed so deep. What is arriving carries the potential to rewrite entire narratives about what is possible, proving that limitation is not inherited truth but a temporary illusion waiting to be broken. With great emergence, however, comes visibility that draws opposition. The more your life rises, the more exposed it becomes to forces invested in keeping chosen ones contained. Distractions will come dressed as legal battles meant to bleed your strength, unexpected health strains meant to divert focus, and sudden relational friction meant to isolate you from your core support. None of these are accidents, they are confirmations of how weighty your assignment is. Resistance increases in direct proportion to purpose, and the very pressure against you reveals how vital your advancement has become. Yet the irony of this struggle is that the wealth prepared for you carries a seal no attack can erase. It is marked with durability that transcends fluctuations of systems and structures. It cannot be diminished by unstable economies, manipulated by policies, or seized through schemes. What flows through you is guarded by a covering that ensures its renewal, replenishment, and multiplication regardless of circumstance. It is not fragile currency, it is fortified provision. Your perspective on this shift must also evolve. The intent is not to position you for empty comparison or superficial outshining, but to entrust you with capacity to impact on a scale that transforms landscapes. This isn't about securing a title of wealth, but about accepting a commission of stewardship. What is entrusted to you will fund hope, restore brokenness, and empower voices that have been silenced. It is not accumulation for applause, but distribution for destiny. The doubts that creep in, whispering that you are not qualified, are echoes of old chains that no longer hold authority. You did not stumble into this place by luck, nor were you accidentally favored. The journey shaped you with precision, the delays built endurance, and the challenges forged discernment. You were intentionally equipped for this moment, a living demonstration that impossibility was never permanent but only a stage awaiting proof of victory. The waiting years had purpose, though they felt like neglect. Your potential was hidden deliberately, not because you lacked worth, but because premature exposure would have placed you in hands that sought to exploit rather than honor. What felt like being overlooked was in fact protection. You were kept out of rooms that would have drained your essence, away from platforms that would have consumed your authenticity without ever respecting it. Now, the unveiling begins. You have been strengthened enough to detect deception, matured enough to step away from counterfeit offers, and healed enough to no longer crave the shallow validation of unworthy voices. This is why the season has shifted. What once was invisible is about to become undeniable, and your rise will not be owned by systems, but directed by purpose alone. What rises in your life now is not just personal gain, but living evidence that despair has no final authority. Every step you take forward dismantles the illusion that cycles of lack are unbreakable. Your advancement proves that ceilings can be shattered, that barriers can bend, and that even the most entrenched narratives of defeat can be rewritten. What flows into your hands becomes more than provision. It becomes proof, a sign that perseverance was never wasted and that unseen faith has tangible rewards. The outward increase, as significant as it may look, is still the smallest part of the transformation. The true revolution is internal, the shaping of a mindset capable of creating, multiplying, and sustaining impact. You're not merely acquiring, you are evolving into someone who knows how to turn vision into structure, how to use influence without being consumed by it, and how to steward opportunities for the benefit of many. The real prize is not the numbers in an account, but the wisdom and insight that now govern your decisions. This growth is not about indulgence, but about innovation. You're discovering that wealth is not clothing for display, but architecture for change. You're realizing that real prosperity is measured in solutions offered, doors opened, and lives shifted because you had the means to intervene. Money is no longer a mirror to reflect status. It has become a lever to move burdens and dismantle chains. This is why your perspective has been sharpened, so that when resources multiply, responsibility grows alongside them. The discipline forming within you is preparation for sustainability. Long before the abundance arrives in fullness, you are developing habits that guard it, emotional maturity that protects it, and foresight that directs it. You are no longer confined to short-term thinking. Your decisions now echo into decades, shaping the terrain for generations not yet walking the earth. That is why you carry a quiet confidence, because you know you are not chasing wealth, you are embodying it, turning your very life into a channel for ideas, opportunities, and transformation. The reach of what you're building will extend far beyond your sideline. Initiatives planted in this season will continue to produce long after your hands have released them. What you establish now will fund education, spark enterprises, heal communities, and launch movements that you may never see in full bloom. Your wealth is being woven into a legacy tapestry designed to keep releasing life long after your physical presence fades. This isn't just about family advancement, it's about generational disruption. Old cycles of lack are being dismantled so thoroughly that future descendants will know abundance as their baseline, not scarcity as their inheritance. The blueprint you design today will serve as scaffolding for others to build upon tomorrow. You are not only shifting your lineage, you are redrawing entire landscapes of possibility. What is unfolding in you is larger than your own name, larger than your own era. It is the creation of structures that will nourish people you will never meet, rewrite destinies you will never witness, and anchor faith in those who would have otherwise surrendered hope. Your rise is not an isolated victory. It is the unveiling of a living promise that hopelessness never has the final word. What is unfolding in your life now is not simply the accumulation of resources, but the visible proof that the unseen and the seen still move together as one. Your increase is not just prosperity, it is partnership, a living sign that higher purpose has always been intertwined with human willingness. The rise you are stepping into reveals that confinement was never permanent, that scarcity was never final, and that delay was never denial. What is coming into your possession was not granted because of sudden worthiness, but because you have been shaped into someone who can hold power without being destroyed by it. Every moment of waiting was a chiseling of character, ensuring that when abundance finally poured in, it would not master you, but move through you. The stillness you endured was preparation in disguise. What seemed like a pause was in fact alignment, where timing and assignment met with precision. The refining made sure your gain would not inflate ego but magnify impact. The very seasons that made you question your progress were silently sculpting the resilience, humility, and wisdom required to handle what could have otherwise crushed you. It was never about postponement, it was always about synchronization between your growth and your calling. Now comes the invitation into deeper circles of transformation. Few dare to step into the weight of what they are truly called to carry, but those who do unlock currents of power impossible to access alone. Gathering with others of like purpose is not merely community, it is ignition. When aligned hearts converge, a force is generated that shifts atmospheres and redefines what is possible. These gatherings become crucibles where vision sharpens, courage multiplies, and the extraordinary begins to feel natural. In these spaces, destiny is not just discussed, it is activated. Each encounter opens a threshold, offering a chance to step into dimensions of influence that remain closed to passive observers. It is in such moments that clarity strikes like lightning, revealing hidden connections between past mysteries and present purpose. The more you lean in, the more the unseen aligns with the seen, until what once felt unreachable becomes tangible. This is not about knowledge alone, but about impartation. Words here are not empty information, they are catalysts. Every session carries the weight of awakening, transmitting strength that flows far beyond the conversation itself. To be present in such circles is to be swept into currents that carry you further than you could walk on your own. The question is never whether the doorway is open, it is whether you will choose to walk through it. For those who step forward, the rewards cannot be measured in ordinary terms. The archives of wisdom that accumulate from such encounters become treasures that outlast the moment. Each insight builds upon the last, layering understanding upon understanding until entire blueprints for transformation emerge. What begins as fragments of revelation grows into systems of empowerment, capable of reshaping not just individuals but generations. And so, this moment presses upon you with urgency. You stand at a threshold where alignment, empowerment, and destiny converge. To remain still is to remain unchanged, but to move forward is to engage with a current that will not only alter your life but ripple outward into places and people you cannot yet imagine. The invitation is not casual, it is necessary. The time is no longer in the distance. The time is now.